Alright, so these are the same doors. We already went ahead and I did some plastic repairs in here. I did one over here. Here. On the back side, I went ahead and did the same thing. We have that on the back. I didn't go in and do it on the back side of this, but I did staple it on the front. It wasn't broken all the way through. This still needs to be taken care of. And I did tackle some of that. Something down here needed to get done. So what I did was I went through and completely ground out in the cracks with a Dremel tool, and then went in and welded in there with new material. Ground that down a little bit, slapped some hot staples in it, and then put a high-strength structural epoxy in there. I like to do all three methods. So we're gonna go ahead and sand some of these down really quick and see what we got. And then we'll go ahead and tackle the rear lip on this guy here, and then re-inspect. So I got that down with some 80 and 120 grit sandpaper, so then I'll have to go back in by hand, then go up with the grits. That'll take care of that, and then when the door gets colored, I blend texture in, so that way essentially it looks like it's never been touched. But I'll have to go through and grab some of this more with the 80. I have to get it by hand. I did get it already with a little sander, but it's too tight of an area to really get with that, even though it's small. So we're gonna pause up, I'll sand that, and then I'll go ahead and grind the backs down a little bit. Alright, this is sanded all the way down. It's nice and smooth. That was welded, stapled, and epoxied. The epoxy on the front side, we use more of a filler, sort of like Bondo, so if there's any little pinhole or imperfection in the weld, it'll fill that, and we use it on back sides of repair because of how strong it is. It literally becomes one with the plastic, being a structural epoxy. We've tested it out before, even when training new people, just to show them. We'll take new plastic and just adhere two pieces together with it and try and rip it apart, and the plastic itself actually starts to break and rip apart before the epoxy compromises. And this might not look too pretty. It is decently smooth. We really just want the strength in here. So this is what's going to be seen when the door's together. So this got completely sanded down all the way up to a higher sandpaper grit. This here just went to 120. It's where the armrest goes. And I could sand that down and really make it look like I was never in there. But since it's 100% hidden and behind the scenes, I really just want to keep the strength there. So I just scuff it up enough and make it look somewhat halfway decent to be where it is, considering it's not going to be seen, and it'll keep tons and tons of strength so it won't break again in here. But it was important to at least make it look halfway decent and go ahead so it'll also hold coloring very well too. So I'm going to flip the door over, and I'm just going to grind the back sides of that stuff so that way that looks respectable and will hold coloring as well. But I never go ahead and go to this extent to repairs on the back, only because it never gets seen and we want the strength. And this guy here where I did a little weld got sanded down. So I'm going to flip the door over, and I'm going to take the grinder to some of the stuff on the back. So I got it pretty good with the die grinder and a grinding disc on there. It is rough, so I will go in by hand, and I'll take care of this with some 80 grit and then top it off with 120 just to make it so it's somewhat smooth and not bulky or anything. But again, I want to leave all that strength on there, so I'm just trying to make it somewhat respectable even though it's never going to be seen. So I'll go ahead and go in there by hand now and take care of that and then come right back.